know what reparations are. So can you define reparations for our understanding today?
So in COBRA, we've defined reparations as the healing, restoring, and repairing a group of people based on that have been violated, based on their group identity, the process. And the reason that we say process is because we understand, as also as you were laying out, that it's not going to be a one-time thing. That healing, the pain and suffering that has happened to us has happened over hundreds of years. So we also think about the fact that the process of healing may take some time as well. And also sometimes people limit reparations to just governments. So we don't limit it just to governments. We feel that there are other, what we call criminal players in the game, which would include corporations, institutions, for example, like many colleges, hospitals, and other institutions that benefited from our trauma and enslavement and even post-enslavement period as well as even individual families that benefited from the enslavement period as well. In terms of reparations, when I joined in COBRA in the reparation movement, the elders shared with me that there was basically 3 roads to reparations for people of African descent. Those who wanted to repatriate and go back to Africa because they felt like that's the only way they could, be fully healed and go back, not just to go back to Africa, but to go back to Africa with resources so we could build schools and hospitals and things that we need, manufacturing and things that we need to be successful over there. Another option within the reparation movement are those who felt like we should have our own sovereign nation state carved out of the United States. And that's a whole radical idea and, a conversation we could even have at a later date. And then there's those people who felt like assimilation would be, the one to stay in the United States and work out their reparations. But one of the things that I feel like is most important for people to understand about defining reparations is the United Nations definition of reparations. So the United Nations definition of reparation breaks reparations down into 5 areas. So the first one is cessation and non-repetition. So cessation and non-repetition talks about the fact that, often, when as we talk about reparations, the crimes and harms are still happening to us, right? We could draw a straight line from enslavement to lynching to police brutality. We could draw a straight line through other areas as well, through health, through housing and other things as well. And so part of reparations has to be coming up with ways that will not continue in the future and that those crimes and harms will not perpetuate themselves. Another form of reparations is restitution. So restitution looks at the legal standing of a people, looks at the loss of language and culture and all of those things as well. And so again, separation, having our own sovereign nation, going back to Africa also, feeds into that one as well, restitution. And in addition to restitution, there is rehabilitation. So rehabilitation looks at the psychosocial trauma that has happened to those people that happened to us in this particular case. And so how, all the things that's needed for our healing, and you kind of, again, alluded to some of that in your introduction, there's something called transgenerational epigenetics. And transgenerational epigenetics is a science now that is showing how trauma can actually get encoded into your genes and so into your DNA. And so meaning that, like if my great-great-grandfather say witness a lynching or what have you, and it alters him, but it gets passed down to his son down to me. And so we have some real deep healing that we have to do mentally, emotionally, physiologically as people of African descent. Then you have compensation, which a lot of people, know that reparations is associated with compensation because, we know we live in a society where a capitalist society, we live in a society where you need money to do things. You need money to get counseling, to get healing, to build institutions for different things. So compensation is definitely a part of reparations. And the last one is satisfaction. So satisfaction looks at how I say we restore the dignity of a people. So satisfaction looks at things like apologies, looks at memorials, and looks at education and curriculum development. We need to tell the story of what has happened to us, as you mentioned, again in your introduction, to what happened to us for African people, to ourselves, but also to the United States as well as to the world. And so that helps to give people a different level of respect and dignity in the world when the proper story is told. So satisfaction is also part of the reparations. And then the last part is what we call self-repair. And so some people use the word internal reparations. I don't particularly like to resonate with that term. I prefer the term self-repair, which was introduced by a professor from Nigeria. And the idea is that, you know, the work that we have to do is really we have to do on ourselves. So even though we can create government policy, even though we can have compensation or different things, the work that we have to do for that healing is work that we have to do on ourselves. And that's the most important aspect of reparations for some people. So that's the full definition that I like to lay out when that I like to unpack when I talk about reparations.